Today we answer the age-old question. Is it really better down where it's wetter?
No.
Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name's Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And we've got a spoiler-free review for the year's best film easily, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I kid. I'm kidding. I'm so kidding.
It's a spoiler-free review of the final movie in all of the DCEU.
Wow, it feels like we've been at this for such a long time, and
10
it's
years.
all finally coming to an end
10 years.
before it reboots again.
One whole decade of... Well, honestly, here's the thing. We could spend a lot of time in this review kind of dissecting what went wrong with the DCEU.
But we've done that enough on our live show, The Tagline.
Yeah, and other various places. We don't necessarily need to do that here. Besides, I will argue and say that actually Aquaman in both movies is one of the highlights of the DCEU. What?
And what's funny is when we first started this channel, I can't remember how soon, but I feel like fairly soon after we started this channel is when we got the first trailer for the first Aquaman movie, which was easily probably one of our most disliked videos, mainly because I was talking about how much I don't like the character of Aquaman. I've never been a fan of Aquaman.
And not even the movie. You're just talking about the character in the comics. You're just not a fan of the comic book character.
Just the character. I was one of those. It's like,
He talks to fish. He doesn't do anything else. He's boring. Yeah.
and then we saw the first movie, and the first movie I actually liked. They did a really good job with it. It was fun. It was bright. It was pleasant. It was entertaining.
Jason Momoa brings a lot of life to the character.
My man. Jason Momoa is really clutch for that movie. And now here we are with the second movie. I feel like I'm saying the same things. Now, I don't think this movie, in my opinion, this movie wasn't as good as the first one. But it was still fun and entertaining. This is nowhere near like the dredge of the DCEU.
Yeah, no. I mean, you've got your Justice Leagues, your Suicide Squads, there's a couple things in the DCU that's kind of like, ooh. But this is definitely not one of them. I would even argue that like this movie, again, yeah, like you said, I think the first Aquaman was definitely better. This Aquaman, I think, is still kind of feels like more of the same. It's more of the same from the first movie to this one. Mm-hmm. There's definitely places where it kind of feels a little bit cornier, a little bit more they just kind of don't care kind of a situation. But I think for me, that doesn't really bother me that much. I like the movie because it doesn't really take itself seriously. It just provides a fun time at the theater.
And I'll say this, like, doing the reactions to the trailers for this Aquaman movie, this movie looked just very bland. Like, for me, I was like, this doesn't look like it's really doing anything special. We're just making another Aquaman movie in a form of printing money, so to speak. But we're not doing anything spectacular with it. And I feel like that opinion that I had going into those trailer reactions, I feel like those were a little bit wrong. Again, this was an entertaining movie. It wasn't as bland as I thought the trailers were looking like. As far as like what I consider really bland for DC, that's Shazam all the way. Like the first Shazam movie was kind of fun, but that second one, whew, that is bland on a stick right there. And this, I think, is, while it is what I would consider a middle tier type of movie, I would put it still on a higher end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time with it, and I think that's what you really need to keep in mind at the end of the day is you're just going to go in there and you're just going to have a good time. We can talk about how different kinds of movies exist on the realm of movies, what they're used for, what they're meant for. You know, you have some Oscar award-winning movies that are supposed to say something. They're supposed to speak into our lives. And then you have movies that are just fun. You just watch them just to be entertained and just to have a good time. They don't necessarily need to speak into our lives. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But they're just a time to just kick back, relax, and enjoy a movie. And that's an okay thing. It's okay for those movies to exist, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah. As far as like the acting goes, kind of like what we said, Jason Momoa carries this movie. He makes Aquaman. Mm-hmm. I'm still a person of the opinion that I would love to have seen Momoa play Lobo, and it may still happen.
That's
Who knows?
probably going to happen.
But like his take on Aquaman, again, a character I didn't like from the comics and cartoons and stuff, he did a phenomenal job. Even like they stick him in the actual like comic book authentic orange costume, and you would think just that wouldn't work, and it still works. It still looks good. I love it.
I can't argue anymore that comic book accurate costumes don't work on the big screen, because we've had so many iterations now through various movies between DC and Marvel where it does just work. We've just accepted how these characters are, who they are, and how they dress.
We're about to get the yellow costume Wolverine in Deadpool 3. It's possible.
It works.
Some small tweaking, but
it might not have worked back in the early 2000s, but it works now.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jason Momoa does fantastic in this. I really like Patrick Wilson as Orm, Ocean Master.
He's such a good foil.
Yeah, like, just playing the straight man, but, like, that's where a lot of the humor in this, like, a lot of this movie, at least, like, the first half or so, it's an adventure with...
It's a buddy adventure film.
Yeah, with Orm and Aquaman. And, like, a lot of it's in the trailer, a lot of the jokes, real kings build bridges and whatnot. Like... Orm is really good. Like, Patrick Wilson does a good job with this character. Yeah. Now kind of having to dial it back from the first movie where he was almost kind of like a megalomaniac, and he is just playing Aquaman's brother for the most part.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love his performance in this.
The other one we want to talk about is Yahya Abdul-Mateen. His Black Manta. First of all, the Black Manta costume, again, is another example of that should not work, and yet I enjoy it.
I will owe to that, and kind of side divergent on this real quick, is it also has to do with the aesthetic of how these movies look. This movie looks, both Aquaman movies look like a live action cartoon. It's the colors are oversaturated, everything is over the top. And that's a part of it for me. I like oversaturation in colors. That's what makes
stimulation.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun for me. I feel like I revert to a little kid, like, look at all the colors.
Pretty colors.
Pretty. Like, that's what I feel like I'm doing with this. And that, I feel like, is a part of what makes Black Manta's costume. And granted, yes, most of his costume is black. But
it's the glowing red eyes.
It's the glow of the red eyes. Like how, like, sometimes when they light up, you see like this like kind of red steam or smoke coming off of them, and it's just cool. Like, it's just awesome. Like, I want to play with that action figure again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that the looks aside, that's why. But
and then I just like the way that he portrayed Black Manta. I mean, we got a little bit of it in the first film, but just being able to dive more into it and kind of basically make him the main villain in this movie did a whole lot for the character. There was definitely some good interaction between him and Aquaman in this movie, and that's what I like to see, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe Black Manta is supposed to be like Aquaman's arch nemesis, essentially.
For the most part, it's like
at least the most popular villain that I can remember.
It bounces between Black Manta and Ocean Master.
Okay,
but yeah, sense. That's the two like big ones. Yeah, I like his portrayal in this movie. He's just really good at that role.
Yeah.
Even though, again, it's supposed to be a little cheesy, a little corny. I mean, he's still uttering lines like, I'm going to kill Aquaman and his entire family. Yeah. I'm going to avenge my father. This sounds like very stereotypical comic book movie dialogue.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father.
It works.
And he pulls it off fairly well. So...
yeah, I mean, I also just like him as an actor. I think he's just a great actor, and I think that the fact that he's portraying this part in this movie is such a big win for both of these movies, both the first one and this one. And we should consider him for Kang.
Hey, DCEU's not doing anything anymore. Do y'all still have that Kang problem over there at Marvel?
Oh, anyway. Yeah, no, he did a great job. I mean, you've got also your supporting players. You've got Nicole Kidman. You got Tamora Morrison here. A couple other people. Jonathan Rhys-Davies doing the voice of this crab man. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren having more to do, I think, in this movie than he did in the last one.
Yeah, a lot more.
Which I didn't see that one coming.
And I like the couple of scenes between Dolph Lundgren's character and Patrick Wilson. Those were fun as well.
Yeah.
Those are leaning in a lot to the can we trust Orm at this moment, and it's a lot of fun to watch that because like Dolph Lundgren just has that air of like, do not mess with me. I mean, even going back to Ivan Drago, he just has always had that stare, that look. And I mean, granted, he's good at it. Most all his roles that he's ever played have been based around that one trait, and you know what? Don't knock it.
I will say the fun thing for me in this was there's a brief moment in the movie where he's like mentioning some kind of like sciencey stuff, and I'm like, is that Dolph Lundgren speaking a bunch of like science lines? Awesome.
Well, it's better than his Old Spice commercials where he's got an arm up and he's
gosh.
just shooting sweat out of his armpit.
I would say the last player that we really need to mention here is
Randall Park. Yeah.
Randall Park, scientist. I think he's such a joy. He's such a joy. He's just a great person to see on screen.
I like him. Like everything I've seen him in, I love when he pops up. And like watching this movie, I was like, he's one of those character actors basically that has seemingly come out of nowhere. And I'm like, where did I first? Oh, yeah, that's right, The Interview.
Yeah.
And like I think he was good in that, as cheesy and corny and dangerous as that movie was.
Everything that movie did for Sony.
Everything that movie did to Sony, yeah. But like he's just a fun person to watch in his natural element of just being whatever weird version of the character that he has to play. And he does a good job here. We got a little bit of it like at the tail end of the first movie. I really love that they fleshed out his character, and they took his character in a couple of directions that I didn't think they were going to go, and then they did, and then they didn't, and then I was like, oh, okay. So I like the waves of his character development over the course of this movie. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't think there's anyone else to talk about.
Yeah, so the other aspect of this movie that a lot of people are probably going to be talking about is like the CGI effects and everything. And I know we mentioned the colors and everything earlier. This movie is a live action cartoon. It doesn't take itself seriously. It does all these big bombastic scenes with all these grand, colorful characters, the sea life that exists. Martin Short. Moving on from that. All of these things kind of cohesively world building what the underwater life that we as surface dwellers never get to see. I think is really well done, albeit kind of corny and cheesy at times.
And I know a lot of that gets like the credit for that would typically go to the cinematographer, but I don't know who that is off the top of my head right now. But kudos to that person. What I will say is, overall, the entire movie, this being a project of James Wan, who also did the first Aquaman movie.
Yeah.
This, again, keep in mind, this is the guy who directed the first Saw movie.
Yeah.
And now we're in this big, bright, lavish, underwater, above water world.
Very different.
And there's directors you can tell, like a lot of directors you can tell their mark on movies. Jonathan Demme does a lot of like first person looking straight into the camera type of things. Tarantino, a lot of feet and a lot of spinning around a table while people are talking. Like there's definitely signs that you can see in every single one of their movies. And I was like John Woo and Doves,
yeah.
But this, like James Wan, it's really hard to see that, like if you're comparing Aquaman to Saw or Dead Silence or any of his other like horror movies. So yeah, I think that's another thing that I really like about James Wan as a director in general.
Yeah. I'm thinking overall, like if there's anything I'd say like this film is detracting on there are moments that it does feel a little hammy. It does feel a little corny. Some of the writing is maybe a little bit off. But that you could argue for some people that might be a giant plus for this. It remains to be seen what you might feel about that. I would say that is potentially an issue that some people might have. Otherwise, I would say that the movie is just a ton of fun.
The other positive thing that I like that I noticed a couple of times while watching it is the music.
Yeah, music's good.
The music is definitely got like that kind of like 80s synth, like Stranger Things opening title type of feel to it.
But it also at times it feels like one of those old school movies with the grand theme to it too.
Yeah, depending on like what like if we're showing like the grand procession of Atlantis and Aquaman on his throne and whatnot.
Yeah, there's moments where the music kind of swells in that way, and other times where it kind of does a little bit more low key stuff, and it's really good all the way around.
So overall, is this movie going to win any awards? Not really, unless you're trying to be like the most overly saturated looking movie of the year. Then it definitely wins that.
I will say, what I will say about this is you do definitely need to stay for the mid-credit scene because it definitely sets up the entirety of the next film in the DCEU. Just kidding.
No,
there's no movie coming.
The mid-credit scene is a perfect
send-off
to the entire DCEU.
Stay for it, enjoy it, love it. Metaphor.
Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for our review for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I would say overall, I would give this movie, again, I'm still thinking this is like the higher end of like your basic movies, but still enjoyable and entertaining. I'd give this out of 10. I'll give it a solid 6. I thought it was fun.
I'm floating upwards around a 7. Yeah, it's floating. Get it?
Floating.
I'm in the water.
That's good.
I'm floating around a 7. It's fun. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a great movie to turn your brain off. It's not going to be in my top 10 of the year, but it was enjoyable enough.
Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this review. What did you think of this review? Or what did you think of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom? Let us know down below in the comments. That's what the comment section's there for, to be honest.
Swim on down there.
So swim on down and leave us a comment. While you're down there, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We just hit 2,000 subscribers. Now we are pushing for 5,000 at the end of 2024. Come join us on that journey. Should be a lot of fun. We got some fun ideas coming up, so make sure you are here for all of the goodness. Otherwise, follow us on social media. We are at the Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram and Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
There you go.
You can follow me personally at Robert Adams on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Also youtube.com/RobertAdamsMLP.
And you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/Chris Adams MLP.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Have a happy holidays, everybody, and see ya.
They say a rising tide raises all ships, but this tide's kind of going out to sea and leaving all the ships behind.
And putting the ships out to pasture.
Metaphor.